All right. Hi, welcome to the very first episode of the Health Score Report. I'm your host, Kwame Terra, founder and CEO of bEHR Health. So, for those who don't know, bEHR Health is a startup company based at Xavier University of Louisiana, committed to maximizing health in the Black community. It's our belief that our current healthcare system, though equipped, just wasn't designed to solve the Black health problem, and it shows. So, at bEHR, we aspire to create a healthcare resource that's free from the shackles of racism infecting our current system and seamlessly integrate health in the Black culture. And it all starts with our app. Now, I know you know your credit score, but do you know your health score? Our app is kind of like Credit Karma, but for your health. Real-time scoring, personalized coaching, and access to health resources all in one place. If you go on a run one day, your score goes up a few points. If you get 2-3 hours of sleep one night, score goes down. Based on those changes, we make recommendations for how you can improve, as well as connect you with healthcare resources and providers on bEHR Connect. So, on today's episode, we're going to go over everything about bEHR Health, since this is the very first episode. I want you guys to get a complete understanding of what our mission and vision is as a company, because we're very early on, but it's important that everybody engages with us from the beginning so that our vision can come to fruition. So first, we're going to go over the health score. What is it? What is it based on? How do you get your score? And what does it mean for your day-to-day overall health and wellness, right? Next, we're going to go over the health score report. The health score report is a kind of like combination of all the user individual health scores into one report. And we're going to get average health score overall, average health score by gender, average health score in each category. And you'll learn the categories here in a second. And we use this information to inform community messaging, as well as what type of events we want to curate for the next month, just so that we can all be working together collectively to improve the health status of the Black community. Think of it kind of like accountability, right? Doing it by yourself is one thing, and you can be so motivated for that. However, when you got your community with you, you got the support from them, as well as the pressure and the tough love from your community. That's also important and helpful for just helping you stay on track for your overall health and wellness. What is the health score? So when I first came up with the idea for bEHR Health, my first thought was, I'm not sure if we know how bad we're doing in the Black community as it relates to our overall health. This was during COVID. Obviously COVID devastated our community, and I just wanted to communicate clearly, or find a way to communicate clearly to the Black community our current health status. And so that's where I came up with the idea of a health score. And so the health score is going to be a number between 0 and 1,000, right? 0 being the worst, 1,000 being the best. And so this is how we simply communicate clearly to the Black community our current health status. The higher your score, the healthier you are. The lower your score, the less healthy you are. Another way to think about it, the higher your score, the slower you're aging, or the lower risk you have for disease, right? The lower your score, the faster you're aging, and the greater risk you have for disease. And part of why I say aging, the rate of your age, is important here is because it's not that Black people are suddenly dying early, right? We're not just suddenly dying from heart attacks at 54 and 37 just because. What's actually happening is we're aging faster. There are two types of aging. There's chronological aging and biological aging. Your chronological age is the number of years that you've been alive, right? Number of birthdays that you've had. There's nothing you can do about your chronological age, and on some level, it doesn't really matter as it relates to your health. Your biological age, on the other hand, is the rate at which your body is essentially losing function, right? Your heart's not pumping blood as efficiently as it should be. Your lungs aren't processing oxygen as efficiently as they should be. And that can be accelerated or slowed down based on your lifestyle and environment. And in the Black community, because of what we're exposed to in this country, our bodies are aging faster, right? Due to stress and what we're exposed to in our environments, like air quality and water and things like that. So all of this stuff affects our rate of aging, right? Including our lifestyle. However, fortunately, the rate of aging can be slowed, stopped, and even reversed at any age. And so no matter what you're exposed to or what you're dealing with in this country, you can take steps to slow that down so that your life can be longer, right? So that you can live a healthier life, be there with your family. And that's the whole mission here. We're trying to predict, prevent, and reverse the chronic conditions that plague our community, because we know it's possible. And it doesn't take that much, right? We just have to be intentional about it, and we have to measure what we're trying to improve. And that's really what this is all about, right? So again, all of it together, there are two parts to bEHR Health. One, We provide a technology platform where you can track your individual health through your health score and make changes and improvements over time. And then we have the health score report, which is where we work together as a community to elevate our collective health status over time. That's it. So if you haven't already, download the app, currently powered by Dakadoo. So DACADOO. There's probably a link below right here. I've always wanted to do that in life. Like one of those YouTube guys, like point right here. I don't even know how to put it right there, but we're gonna figure that out in the post production. But so let's break down the health score a little bit. So the health score is based on 7 different categories of health. So we have physical activity, mindfulness, mental well-being, sleep, physical health, self-control, and nutrition. Those 7 categories give you your overall score. On the app, you'll be scored in each category. So while you'll have your overall score, you'll also get an activity score. You'll also get a nutrition score, a mental well-being score, right? So while you might be doing well overall, you might be slacking or struggling a little bit in another category. So that's what you would want to focus on, right? That's where the messaging that we send you will kind of be tailored based on or tailored to. So how does the score work? What is a good score, right? Everybody wants to know that. Anything above 680 is considered excellent, right? Meaning that you've reduced your overall risk of premature health events, right? So was a premature health event? That could be a heart attack at an early age. That could be a stroke at an early age, right? So your score is really letting you know the risk that you have for having a significant health event on any given day, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to die tomorrow or anything like that, but just it's letting you know based on your overall health what risk you have for a significant health event or any chronic condition that plagues our community today. So 680 and above, excellent, meaning you're doing great, right? Your rate of aging is slowed down. Right, you're probably going to live a little bit longer than the averages in the country, as well as in the Black community. 610 to 679 is considered very good. Again, still doing great. Okay, 550 to 609 is good. Now in the good range, you would say average, right? You're aging at a normal rate, right? You'll probably live to whatever the normal life expectancy is in our community, and some people are okay with that. Our goal as a company is to get everybody to excellent. That's our goal as a company. Public health is the art and science of prolonging life. It's my duty to do everything that I can to prolong the life of my community. That's my mission. That might not necessarily be your mission, and that's okay. But let's just know I'm always going to be advocating for you to have the healthiest and live the longest life that you possibly can. That's my duty. But if you're cool with being in the good range, 550 to 609, do that, right? If that's what does it for you in life, respect. Anything below 550 is where we start to get a little, start to enter the category where things might start getting a little interesting, okay? And so 480 to 549 is considered fair. So in the fair range, you're starting to be at greater risk, or you're potentially at greater risk for chronic conditions like hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and even some cancers, right? And we want people to move away from that. Right. That again, this is the ultimate goal of this company: predict, prevent, and reverse the chronic conditions that plague our community. We predict it by looking at your score. Right. Based on your score and based on the scores of other people who have these conditions, you may be at risk, and we'll let you know that. And so, that's the fair range. Anything below 480, right? So 479 and below is the poor or low range. Okay. And in this range, depending on where you fall, you're probably at greater risk for developing chronic conditions early in life, right? So if you're a young person with a score in that range, you may be fine right now because you're young, right? And the body is still very, very, vigilant and can just handle all kinds of stuff, right? It was just Mardi Gras here in New Orleans, and I saw some incredible, unbelievable things these kids are doing out here in these streets with drinking but wake up the next day, bounce back like nothing happened. That resilience starts to wane as you age, right? And depending on what you're doing now will affect how long you can remain resilient, right? And the thing about health, and what I love so much about the health score is that it lets you know where you are right now, right? So just because you're 29 years old or 31 years old, you may be having a moment in life that is compiled with stress and poor eating and no movement, right, and a lot of alcohol. It only takes a moment for there to be a perfect concoction to create a significant health event for you, right? You don't have to necessarily be in your 50s or 60s for that to happen. And so just be mindful of that, and especially as we start to age and hopefully change some of our habits, we can avoid some of those things long term. Okay, so that is the health score. Everybody gets a score, 0 to 1,000. It's going to change every day depending on how you change, like I said before. So if you go on a run or a walk one day, score goes up. If you are inactive for a week, your score is going to go down. If you get 2 hours of sleep, your score is going to go down. And again, based on these changes, you receive messaging from our coach. So that's the health score. Again, make sure you download the app, connect to Health Tracker, and get your initial score. Right, it's going to take about 3 minutes. Health score report. So once everybody has their score, all of our users have their score on the app, then we get our data automatically in kind of like what's called aggregate form, right? So aggregate means a combination of data points, right? So all of our user data together, nobody's individual score is going to be on the health score report. It's going to be all the averages together. So we'll have the average score overall, average score by gender, average score by age. We'll also see like average health, activity trends as well. So how many hours of working out did our entire community do in the month before? How many steps did the community take? How many calories did the community burn? So on and so forth, right? So we're going to go over all that, and that's actually what we're about to get into right now. So the final thing I want to mention before I dive into the health score report is, part of why we are even doing the health score report. I know I mentioned the community aspect, the accountability, but our company is just starting off with a health app. In the future, we'll have virtual care, primary care, healthy grocery delivery, and more. And it's all going to be based on and informed by what we see in these reports. We don't necessarily know what the entire Black community needs to maximize health in their communities. We will learn that through these reports. And then over time, through partnerships, we'll be able to bring the community exactly what they need, whether that's a clinic in that community, whether that's just a community center overall, right? Just so that people can get together in fellowship, right? We don't know exactly what we need just yet, and that's why the health score report is so important, okay? All right, so we're gonna look at January compared to February and see how we did. So overall health score in January, average health score across the board was 535. Average health score in February is 537.
Clap it up.
All right. I'm big on improvement, however small. And every time I see this, I get excited because, again, now we're still in the fair range, right? So I do want us to make sure we're tracking toward the good range. But to see any improvement overall, I mean, there are over 1,800 people on this platform. For it to go up collectively is a big deal. And so we need to celebrate that. Now, in January, average female health score was 530. In February, average female health score, 533.
Hey.
Okay. 3 points up for the women. And same thing for the men. So in January, we had a 542. And in February, we had 545. So up across the board, love that. A slight breakdown of the scores by range, right? So remember, there's low, fair, good, very good, and excellent. The overwhelming majority, nearly half of users are in the fair range, okay? And then about 300, little over 300 are in the low range, right? So the majority of our users are in the poor to fair range, right? And this isn't something to really be too concerned about, mainly because we already knew that this was the case from the country, right? The data that already exists in the country. We know that the majority of us have one or more chronic conditions like hypertension, type 2 diabetes, or more. Many of us are on one or more medications. So we already knew that this was the case. So while it is still troubling to look at the data and concerning, this shouldn't be too big of a surprise to us based on what we already knew, right? So what do we do about this, right? The majority of our users are in the lower fair range. How do we collectively over the next 12 months, say, shift that a little bit to where more users are in the good range, very good, so on and so forth. So about 25%, 25 to 30% of our users are in the good and above range. So that's good. Let's see if we can just keep shifting that on a monthly basis. All right, now let's get into the average score by category. For activity, So physical activity, this is any form of exercise. This is running, walking, yoga, jogging, whatever you want to do. We grew by 13 points, or we increased by 13 points from January to February in activity. So that's a big deal. I mean, activity is so critical for overall health and wellness, right? Especially when it comes to aging and the health of your brain, right? The health of your brain is so important for your overall health because it really just gives you the will to live. The will to live sits in your brain, right? And its relationship to the rest of your body, obviously. But if your brain isn't in its best state, it's going to be difficult for you to be in your best state, right? To even want to live the best life that you can. I mentioned earlier, the definition of public health is the art and science of prolonging life, right? But I think there's a part of that definition that's missing that we've sort of added in our program. You can extend life forever, but are they living a good life? Right? You can keep somebody alive for a long time by pumping them with medication, right? Keeping them bedridden for extended periods of time. You can keep people alive for a long time. So I think it's an incomplete definition, right? So right now it's the art and science of prolonging life, but I think it should be the art and science of prolonging the desire to live, because the desire to live is really the root of longevity, right? A lot of people are unhappy for to me justifiable reasons, but how do we set up society? How do we create environments that inspire people to want to live? That's when we'll know we've done it right. When people want to be here as long as they possibly can, not to miss out on the experience that we have here. So that's key, right? So anyway, activity improves brain health, which increases, the will to live overall. So that's great. Mindfulness, 550. And I think it's also worth me going into detail a little bit about each category. So mindfulness is really about your attitude toward life, right? So how do you feel about your social interactions? Like, what is your interpretation or your perception of your experience? Because that matters, right? Somebody can be having a great life on paper, but they don't perceive it that way, right? And so that's why it's important to check in on your mindfulness as well. This is also related to like how often you meditate or do things related to just being present and in the moment with your experience. Also, religious and spiritual experiences can be considered in here. So we went up 1 point in mindfulness. That's good. Again, I love improvement. Sleep. Sleep last month was 639. This month it's 640. Sleep scores are really high. So sleep scores are and let me go back. Activity at 592 is in the good range. Mindfulness at 550, also in the good range. Sleep at 640 is in very good. Now, there may be some factors happening here, right? Sleep is affected by some questions that you answer on the app, as well as how often you track your sleep. I don't think most people track their sleep. And I encourage people to track your sleep. So if you have an Apple Watch or anything like that you wear throughout the day, I encourage you, not necessarily every night if you're not comfortable with it, but like wear it at night so that you can see exactly how many hours you sleep, how much time you spend in REM versus how much time you spend in deep sleep, or how many times you wake up throughout the night. It's important to know your sleep. And I have a feeling that if more people track their sleep at night through a wearable, that score might drop a little bit, because sleep is a big deal. And I know it's a challenge for a lot of people. And so that would be my recommendation. Everybody's like, let's start tracking our sleep a little bit so we can see if that score, that may be the score, man. Everybody may be sleeping great. That would be great too. All right, so mental well-being is next. Mental well-being scores didn't change overall from January to February. To me, that's a win, right? That we're not going down. So that's good to see. So mental well-being, again, that's pretty straightforward. That's your emotional health, right? Also related to mindfulness, like how you feel about your social interactions and stuff like that. But things like mental health, depression, anxiety, these are big deals right now. And honestly, mental well-being and the next category, physical health, are often the two lower categories on our platform, but they're honestly like the two most important. And so we really got to get this right. So physical health, body score, we went up 2 points in this category. Okay, that's good. So your body score comprises of your height, weight, which gives you your BMI, your waist circumference. It gives you your blood, or it's based on your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your glucose levels, right? All of this kind of like medical information that's really important. And honestly, one of the most indicative aspects of your overall health, right? If these numbers are good, you're probably healthy. If they're not, even if everything else is going well, going well in your opinion, you're still at greater risk, right? And so we really got to get this part right. And this is actually our lowest category right now at 5'11". So that's in the fair range, starting to flirt with the low range. This is almost this is driven in a lot of ways by weight, and I think I can break it down here real quick, because weight is a sensitive topic in our community especially, and I want to offer a new metric to use to think about your weight. Your weight is important. This is not to throw out BMI as a metric to determine if you're potentially at risk for a health condition, right? On the whole, those who have, a 25 or greater or 30 or greater BMI, overweight or obese, they probably are carrying some additional health risk through that, okay? This is not meant to fat shame or anything like that. It's just, this is what the data is. And in fact, obesity is emerging as the number one driver of preventable death, right? So right now it's just cigarette smoking. We know that it causes lung cancer and ultimately takes people's lives too soon. Obesity is emerging as the second driver for that. So let's get into obesity just a little bit, because it's an imperfect metric. A better metric, one that we're starting to look into, is called your height to weight, or your height to waist ratio. So your BMI is your height to weight ratio. This new metric is your height to waist ratio. So how tall are you compared to your waist circumference? Because the real problem with excess weight is when the excess weight is developing in your abdominal region, right? So you're developing fat around your organs, your critical organs, and that's just problematic. And when you develop fat in that area, it expands your waistline. And so if that is, this is what the experts are saying, if your waist is half your height, right? So if you're 64 inches tall or 5'4", and you have a 32 or 32 inch waist or lower, then you're probably not at greater risk for chronic conditions, even if you're technically overweight or obese by the height to weight ratio, right? So if you're technically obese because you lift a lot, and so you're carrying a lot of additional weight, or you just have greater bone density because you're younger or compared to an older person, or you generally have more muscle mass. These are the things that BMI don't take into consideration, and it just can't, right? It's just, again, it's a flawed metric. If you have a high BMI but your height to waist ratio is in check, I would say that it's not as big a deal, right? It's not something to be too concerned about, because you don't necessarily have excess fat in the abdominal region, which is a real risk factor, which is a real problem there. So just something to consider. I encourage everybody to, if you can at home, grab a piece of string, wrap it around your waist. Your waist is like, just like right here, right above your hips. Take it out, get a measuring tape, see how long it is. You know your height probably, and just compare. If it is half your height or better or lower, right? So if you're 54 or 5'4", 64 inches, and your waist is 32 inches or smaller, doing great. Okay, so just something to take into consideration. I think is really, really important, particularly for Black women, to know that. And so, because I know the weight thing is a big deal, and the metric, I know it really bothers people. And so if I can offer this as an opportunity for you to kind of be free from that constraint, that oppression in a way. However, if it's above that, we gotta get them waist down. We gotta get that waist down. And naturally, as you get your waist down, you're probably gonna lose a little bit of weight. Okay, so again, we're not demonizing weight. It's not the problem. We are demonizing excess fat in the abdominal region. All right, nutrition. Nutrition scores are in the good range, just below very good. I'm actually very skeptical of this. either someone's lying or the algorithm needs to be changed because I see how we eat out here, especially here in New Orleans, and the majority of our users are in New Orleans, so there's just no way that our but I could just be hating. We could be good. Everybody could be doing great, but I'm just skeptical. So, but for now, 604. That's an increase from the month before too. And then finally, self-control or indulgence, right? So this is like kind of like overconsumption of things, right? Overconsumption of food, overconsumption of alcohol, overconsumption of caffeine, right? Where are we doing too much? We actually improved in this category as well by 1 point. So we're at 564, which is in the good range. Great. So all right, that's it. That's health score report. Wait, I lied. There's an additional section. But that's the average scores by category. All right, now we're going to get into what we were just talking about a little bit with weight. So the average BMI on the platform currently is 29.5. Obesity starts at 30. And that is almost certainly driving the fair and low health scores within. So next, we have blood pressure. So good blood pressure is 120 over 80 or better, right? So better means lower. So if it's below 120, like 116, 117, great. 110, even better, right? That's for the top number. For your bottom number or diastolic, you want it to be 80 or lower, okay? And so 75 is great, 70 is great. Right now, our average blood pressure on the platform is 116 over 75, which is incredible, actually. A small percentage of users engage with it, although enough to indicate, where we are on average, which is this is great. An average blood pressure of 116 over 75 is incredible. It's better than 120 over 80 on average, right? Because lower your blood pressure, like your body or your heart isn't having to work as hard to do its job, right? So that's great. 3% of our users are smokers. Right? That's actually below the national average, so we love that. On average, we're drinking about 0.3 cups of coffee per day. Coffee is actually associated with longevity. A lot of people don't know this, but couple cups of coffee a day are actually pretty good for you, decaf or caffeinated. So if you don't like coffee, I don't like coffee personally, but I drink it because I know it's good for my longevity. Decaf though. That caffeine get me too.
You don't need no caffeine.
I drink. What do you mean by that?
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll drink like a cup of coffee one day and the next day, and then like I'm good for the next week. It feels like I'm up. So anyway, on average, we're drinking 2.6 alcoholic beverages per week, which is honestly great. Now, granted, again, it was just Mardi Gras. I don't know who updated their alcohol questions or not. Again, as often as possible, I would say at least, ideally every 2 to 4 weeks, update your answers in each category so you can, so that this report can reflect where we actually are, so that we can be intentional about what we provide for our community. But 2.6 is actually good. So there's been like data out there about how like alcohol is on some level good for you. Like a glass of wine a night is kind of good for you. Recent data suggests that there is no such thing as alcohol being good for you on any level. Okay. And 2 drinks per week is kind of the cutoff. If you're only having 2 drinks per week, then there's probably not going to be any additional risk associated or health risk that you develop as a consequence. Anything above that, based on the latest data, you're going to start to see damage, throughout your entire body. Brain, most importantly, is what's put at risk the most, I think, as it relates to alcohol. And so, but this is good. 2.6, I'm happy with that. If we can get it to 1.9, I'd be even happier. But I can live with 2.6. Live with that. All right. Next, we're going to get into the activity. This is the final part of the health score report that we're going to talk about. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we were pretty active last month, I must say. We did 4,585 workouts as a community in the month. Yes, that's a lot. That's an increase. That's an increase of 3% from the month before. Okay. We completed 28.29 million steps in February. That's a 13% increase from the month before. So yeah, we moving out here. We moving. That's so many steps. I don't know what the average is per user off the top of my head, but that's a good thing. Total workout duration. We spent 3,030 hours working out last month as a community. 4% increase from the month before. We covered 21,209 kilometers, which is about, I want to say about 15,000 miles as a community. Again, 14% increase from the month before. And where we saw the greatest increase from an activity perspective is in calories burned, where we burned 1.8 million calories in the month of February. So why is this like so important? February is a shorter month. It's the shortest month. And we increased in each category, in each activity category, in the shortest month of the year. That's what I'm talking about. That's incredible. That's incredible. Very encouraging. And let's keep that up. Let's keep that up for March. So that's it. Now, typically at this point, I will take some questions from the audience, or we'll go over some questions that were sent to us by our users. But for the first one, I'm just going to lay it out and give y'all the blueprint to health. How do you be healthy, Black in America? Here it is. All right. This is the Bare Health Blueprint, or what may in the future be called the bare minimum.
Ooh,
You see what I did there?
That's
See what I did
good.
there? Yeah. The bare minimum to be healthy. What does it take? Okay. First things first. You need to establish health as a core value. It's when you don't have your health, it's all you care about. It's all you care about getting back, right? Living your life like normal, not really worried about your health that much. As soon as health is a problem, it's the only problem, which is indicative of how important it is to you and everybody else. And so you need to establish it as a core value, not something that you do when you're trying to get ready for something, a big event, right? It's not something that you prioritize when just when something happens, right? Or when you have a significant health event, like you just had a heart attack. Now your health is important. No. Your health needs to be important right now. A core value. Everything in your life is based on it. Every aspect of your life is affected by it. And so it needs to be a top priority. I see people's Instagram bios. God, family, business. Where's health? Where's all that is dependent on your health? It need to be health, God, health, family. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, let's put it. Matter of fact, Instagram bio challenge.
Oh my God.
Put health as one of the things. And I'm so serious though. I'm so serious. Anyway, so that's how we're going to establish health as a core value. We're going to put it in our Instagram bios. All right, great. All right. All right, so that's not a step. That is just the overarching theme. Step one is purpose and community, right? You're not going to care about anything else that I'm about to say as far as like tactical ways to improve your health if you don't have purpose and community. We're human beings, right? We need to feel like our life has meaning. It is literally what gives us the desire to live. And so your purpose doesn't necessarily have to be some grand vision of impact that you want to have on the world, right? Your purpose could simply be how you function within the system and the value that you bring within your means at any stage of life. I say start small, right? And it's important that you are able to recognize progress toward whatever value goal you're pursuing in order to maintain the energy levels that are required to, have the desire to continue to live. I say start small. If you have too big a purpose, too big a vision, and you're not able to recognize measurable progress toward it over time, you can experience positive emotions. The positive emotions that give you that sense of meaning. And then you may end up ultimately just a little sad about life, but it's because you put the mark too high. Let's put it like right here. And when you make progress toward that, you will be imbued with that sense of meaning and that sense of purpose. No matter the value goal, as long as you decide it's a value goal and you kind of set it up as a thing that you're working toward and you make progress, that your brain is just looking for something to pursue. That's just how we're wired. Give it something to pursue, make progress toward it, and you will feel like your life has meaning. So figure out whatever that is. It doesn't have to be big. And you can always change your purpose. Start off with something small. Once you accomplish that, shift your purpose, right? Expand it. Make it to where it can include more people, right? Let's start small, right? Cool. Community. We are social animals, okay? Let's not try to act like we can all just drone out on our phones and be happy. Now, the content is entertaining. Do not get me wrong. I once downloaded TikTok. I immediately deleted it because this is too good. TikTok figured it out. And I think the greatest indication that TikTok figured it out is that every social media is changing their entire algorithm to match TikTok's algorithm. The entire government, U.S. government, just tried to shut down TikTok. That's how valuable it is. All right. So don't get it twisted. But I deleted it because that is just too entertaining, and it takes me away from community and engaging with other people. Okay, that's what's missing. And you need those two things first and foremost. So how do you find community? And again, we'll get into some details on how to do all these things before, but a simple way to find community is go to events around things that you're interested in. You need like-minded people too. You can't just hang out with anybody because you won't be fulfilled there either. But yeah, go to events related to things that you're really interested in. You'll find like-minded people that like to do those things, not just at that event, but outside that event. You guys can hang out together, do all that stuff. All right. Next, know your numbers. All right. So now you decide you want to be healthy and you're happy with your life because you got purpose in your community. Now you're ready to get better. So first step is know your numbers. You cannot improve what you aren't measuring. Period. Okay. You may feel like you're doing great, but you need to know that you're doing great. Okay. So the first thing is to know your numbers. So this is your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your glucose, your height, your weight, your BMI. Some things to maybe start adding in is your mile time, right? Your 1 mile time. How many pull-ups can you do, right? How many push-ups can you do? Things like this are going to be important to track over time so that you can know how you're improving. All of this stuff you can get from your doctor. We also will do community events where we do free screenings as bEHR Health. So we'll do that in New Orleans. As we expand, we'll do that throughout the country. But we want to make sure that this information is known because these are really the metrics of health. As you start to take steps towards improving your overall health and wellness, we're going to be looking at these numbers to see if they're improving, right? As you start to change your diet, does your cholesterol go down? Does your blood pressure go down? Does your glucose levels go down? That's when we know we're doing the right thing. Because there are a lot of diets out here that some of them aren't for everybody. But ultimately, if these numbers aren't improving, then your diet's not working. Okay? So next, speaking of diet and nutrition. Once you know your numbers, now you can tailor your diet, you can tailor your exercise plan based on those numbers, right? So if your blood glucose levels are a little high, your sugar levels are a little high, in your personalized diet, you're going to reduce the amount of sugar that you consume. Okay. A couple things to know. Focus on single whole food. Focus on single ingredient whole foods. Limit fried foods. You want to be less than two servings of fried food per week. Another thing to note, 80% of Black people are lactose intolerant. We're all lactose intolerant. We should not be consuming dairy. Again, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm only here to maximize Black health.
Stop eating that cheese, y'all.
Stop eating that cheese. You don't need it. I know you feel it. I know you hate the experience. I know you love the ice cream. I know you love the cheese. But I'm just telling you, it's not for us. It's not for us. All right. 7 glasses of water per day. And supplementing. All right, we'll just leave it right there. Well, also a little bit more on nutrition. Processed meat is a group 1 carcinogen. What does that mean? It causes cancer. Processed meat causes cancer. Processed meat causes cancer. You know what else is a group 1 carcinogen? Cigarettes. Now, again, just because you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day does not mean that you're going to develop lung cancer. And just because you eat 3 servings of processed meat a day does not mean that you're going to develop cancer. But based on what we consider a cancer-causing product, it meets the standards, just so you know. Processed meat is also the #1 driver of type 2 diabetes. Nearly 30% of of the population has type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, right? This is an entirely preventable condition, except for, type 2 is. Type 2 is a preventable condition and in some cases reversible, right? Cold cuts. Absolutely. Yep. The food guidelines that we make our recommendations based on are based on the longest lived populations in the world. They eat 95 to 100% whole food plant-based diets. They spend a lot of time with their family and their community, and they have a lot of purpose. Right? They actually don't exercise that much, like in the traditional way that we think about exercise. There's just so much movement incorporated into their life that they're just naturally more fit. Okay, they're not like out here running marathons and stuff like that. Right? No knock on any of that. That stuff is good for you to an extent, but it's really about structuring your life to incorporate all of this stuff without you having to think about it. Next is when to eat. Okay, this is important. Honestly, when you eat, I think, is actually more important than what you eat. Right? We're either in one of two states. We're in the fasted state or the fed state. In the fasted state, or actually, let me start with the fed state. In the fed state, our body is using what we've consumed to do work, right? So it's using energy, right? It's working on the body. Just like anything else, when you put wear and tear on it, it degrades over time. And that's okay. You have to eat. We can't survive without eating, obviously. But how often should we eat? And this isn't a conversation about how much should we eat. This is a conversation about how often we should eat. How often should we give our body a break from digestion? It's really important to know that. So within the first hour of waking, try to avoid eating. Okay, start off with a glass of water. That's best. Move the body a little bit, but let your body wake up. Okay, or let your digestive system wake up a little bit. And you want to avoid eating within the last 2 to 3 hours of going to sleep. Now, I'm sure everybody has heard like the idea of not eating after 8. 8 o'clock is arbitrary. It really means nothing. Actually the timeline, the 12 to 8, was based on the timeline feeding schedule that the scientist was using for their mouse experiment to test fasting, and that's just the schedule that made sense for the scientists at the time, 12 to 8. Now, in keeping with that, there was this study done where they had the mice eat only from 12 to 8. They had one group eat from 12 to 8, and they had the other group eat whenever they wanted, right? So they're constantly in the fed state because they're bored and they just want to eat, right? Like a lot of us. And the group that was only allowed to eat between 12 and 8 p.m. lived 30% longer. They eat the same food, same amount of food, same foods. They lived 30% longer. So what does that mean for us? However you might feel about it, we are related to a lot of these animals in significant ways. And so something similar mechanisms are turned on in us that are turned on in these mice during these studies when we follow similar patterns. And to start, again, I'm not recommending that people go into, a 4-hour eating window where they're only eating from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. or anything like that. It's got to make sense for your life. But to start, avoid eating in the first hour and no eating within 2 to 3 hours, really ideally 3 hours before going to bed. Start there. Over time, just condense that even more because eating less often is actually the most effective practice for extending your lifespan. Because what happens when you eat less is your body goes into rest and repair. We're constantly bombarded with toxins through our food, water, air, and our bodies never get a break and never get a chance to do rest and repair. And when we're in the fasted state, that's what we do. And our bodies are so smart that they go and use our old damaged cells and proteins for energy first, right? So you have, over time, your body starts to make mistakes just because of experience and lack of rest, honestly. And so when your body needs energy because it's not getting energy from food, it goes and uses these old damaged cells and tissues and turns them into younger ones. And then it literally slows and reverses your age. So it's important to note there. Perfect segue into sleep. Sleep's not next on this one, but it's next over here. So we're going to go with sleep. Sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance. I schedule my sleep before I schedule anything else. 7 to 8 hours. Ideally 8 for me. I love 8. I'm perfect at 8, right? Lately I've been on 7. Life. But all of these adaptations, all of the improvements that you're making in your life don't really take form if you're not sleeping well, not sleeping properly. And honestly, there's one factor that's affecting all of our sleep, and I just mentioned it. But the more time between your last meal and your bedtime, the better your sleep will be. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking like, "Oh my god, like if I'm hungry, I can't fall asleep." The reason you're hungry when you're the reason that you feel hungry, even though your body doesn't necessarily need food, is because of a hormone called ghrelin. It releases based on your eating schedule. So if you're accustomed to eating, breakfast in the morning, snack, late morning, lunch in the afternoon, snack, and then dinner, and then a late night snack. If you're accustomed to that, your body's going to release ghrelin based on that schedule. So it's going to be a little challenging for a moment, a couple of days maybe, for you to kind of adjust. But the more time between your last meal and when you go to bed, the better your sleep will be, and the more rest and repair will take place during sleep. Get improvements and adaptations. 7 to 9 hours is what everybody should be getting. Some people can do 6, but on average, 7 to 9 hours per night. Okay. Schedule it first. Exercise. 30 minutes of moderate exercise per day, or 15 minutes of vigorous exercise per day. Pick your poison. Doesn't matter. Just move your body. 30 minutes of walking will literally extend your life more than you know. Walking wasn't always a big part of my wellness, and fitness. But last year when we started doing all these steps challenges, and I saw the benefits just for myself and other users who, some of which, did 1 million steps in a month and lost 20 pounds and got taken off their blood pressure medication. So we're already starting to see the impact of, or part of our goal kind of come to fruition of predicting, preventing, and reversing the chronic conditions that plague our community. People are coming off their medications from walking. So just walk. If you can't start anywhere, just start with walking. It's truly powerful. I'll share an anecdote at the end if we have time. So I already did sleep. Substance use. Truthfully, there are really no substances that we should be consuming that's not water and whole foods. Okay? That said, we like to enjoy our life. And so we're going to. I have no expectation that any human being is going to just go through life, stone sober their entire life. So how much should you be doing if you're going to be doing those things? Cannabis. Everybody's on that right now. Did you know that smoking cannabis or consuming cannabis 2 or more times per week increases your likelihood of developing depression by 4 times? You're 4 times more likely to be depressed if you smoke 2 or more times per week. I know people that smoke 2 or more times per day. It is central to their life. And while there aren't many immediate health risks from cannabis, it's unlikely that you're gonna have a heart attack or have any significant major health event, right, when it comes to cannabis. But that doesn't mean it isn't affecting you in negative ways. And this is also not to discount the positive benefits of cannabis. Alcohol, again, we already know, limited to 2 or fewer drinks per week. Again, there are going to be times, bachelor parties, there are going to be, parties in general where you're drinking a little bit more. Again, just depends on your, how much you want to prioritize that, celebration couple times a year, 3-4 times a year, every quarter, probably okay to, kind of overdo it a little bit if you feel so inclined. Some of us, especially, Mardi Gras, that is the central part of Mardi Gras is the drink. And so people will overconsume, but if that's not your normal, it's okay. Your health is determined by what you do all the time, not what you do sometimes. Right? So always keep that in mind. All right. Don't really need to talk about tobacco. I think everybody's pretty clear on the risks there. Oral health. Get 2 cleanings a year. Brush and floss daily. Limit sugar. I think, again, the messaging from the oral health community has been pretty strong, and so there's not much more to say on it. But a lot of people still aren't doing these things, right? 2 cleanings per year, 2 hours a year of your 2 hours a year for your life, for your oral health. That's it. 2 hours. You have 2 hours? I think so. Brush and floss daily. I know people that brush once daily because brushing at night is just like an inconvenience. And I actually challenge people who don't brush their teeth at night because for whatever reasons. I mean, I know the same reasons. Like I just ate something good. I don't want the taste out of my mouth yet. Or that's not a reason that's a reason sometimes that I wouldn't before. Or like, just like I'm already in bed comfortable. I don't want to get up and brush my teeth, whatever it may be. The more often you do things that you don't want to do, like that you in your heart just don't want to do, the stronger your will becomes as a human being. You're going to need that willpower for challenges in life. And so if not for your oral health, do it for your mental health, right? And that could be brushing your teeth. That could be anything that you just don't feel like doing. And it's got to be something that you don't feel like doing. Do it anyway. It makes you better. Okay. All right. Mental health, don't have too much to say here. Our mental health and well-being and our overall sense of meaning is really rooted in making progress toward a valued goal. So you better have a valued goal in your life, whatever it may be. And you need to make progress toward it. Most of us struggling with mental health problems is related to that, right? Some of us, again, have clinical challenges that are deeper. But I think on the whole, we are just struggling to navigate life, and no wonder, right? It's a lot being thrown at us all the time, especially now with social media. And so we just kind of needed to orient ourselves properly. And that's a lot of what mental health care professionals do. They just help people organize their life and just provide some structure to, whatever it is that the person is trying to achieve in their life. So my recommendation is that you just check in with somebody, similar to how you do an annual checkup with your medical provider. Start with just doing a preventative checkup with a mental health care provider. Allow somebody to establish a baseline of who you are, how you are when you're good. So even if you're good right now, you feel like you're great, go get a check-in and allow them to, again, establish a baseline for where you are and what it looks like when you're good. So that, every 6 months or every 3 months when you go check in with them, they'll start to notice things that you aren't able to notice about yourself, right? And others aren't able to notice about you. And they can start nudging you in one direction or another, make recommendation or ask you a question to make you think about something that, again, you may not have been thinking about, but they're starting to notice, right? We need to be proactive about mental health because it's hard to unwind because it's hard to see what it is, right? I don't know if you guys have seen the DSM, but it's a very broad set of definitions. And if you know what definitions are supposed to be, concise, but they're broad. And so it's hard to understand mental health. And so the earlier and the more information you can share with somebody about your mental well-being, the better. And I recommend doing that early and doing it all. Okay. Cool. And that's it, guys. So that's the blueprint. I'm gonna run through really quickly. Purpose. So first, make health a core value. Second, develop a purpose and establish a community. Next, know your numbers. Right? Blood pressure, cholesterol. Go to your doctor and get this check-in. What you eat is just as important as when you eat. You should try to stick to 95 to 100% whole food plant-based diets. It is the healthiest diet based on all of the information that exists in the world. The longest lived populations eat 95 to 100% plant-based diets, but do what works for you. Avoid eating within the first hour and within the last 3 hours before you go to sleep. So avoid eating within the first hour waking, avoid eating within the last 3 hours before you go to sleep. Eating less often is the most effective practice for extending your life. Maintain a healthy weight or healthy waist. Yeah, you like that, huh? Exercise 30 minutes a day. Sleep 7 to 9 hours per day. Limit your cannabis and alcohol use to 2 times per week across the board. Brush your damn teeth. Floss daily. And just go do a mental health check-in. Do all those things, and we'll start to see trends going up, and then we'll work on them. Or down. We'll work on it. But thank you guys for coming to the Health Score Report, the very first episode of the Health Score Report. I'm glad you all are here. If you don't already have the app downloaded, make sure you download our app. Get your health score and be a part of this movement with us, right? Because we won't know if we're affecting or improving the overall health of the Black community if the whole Black community is not here. So we need everybody to be a part of this, okay? Again, my name is Kwame Terra, founder and CEO of bEHR Health. Our vision is to maximize health in the Black community, and I'm glad you're a part of it.
Beautiful.